you a Tableau Server security hardening checklist, which is available at this list. If you just search for Tableau Server security hardening checklist, you'll easily find it. It is a really handy list to go through and to have. So I would definitely recommend after your server install going through this. It's upgraded for different versions, so you can change it depending on which version you have. And if you don't know that already, yeah, I say this. So if you don't know this already, you can easily change your version. If you're up here in the URL, you see help.tableau current. I can change the current to version 2019.4, let's say. And now I'm looking at version 2019.4 checklist. But I have the latest, so that is 2020.2. And now I'm looking at 2020.2 checklist. So that's handy to know. And there are many things here. There's a whole list of things you can set up. It's really good to go through each one of these and have that discussion if you need this or you don't, what you need to enable and what you do not need to enable. But basically, I'm just going to cover the things I think are the most important. So configure SSL that you can do with your certificate. And yeah, they do mention not a self-signed certificate. You need a valid trusted certificate with one of your trusted authorities. Then disable older versions of TLS. Now, this is very important. SSL itself is a name for an older version of encryption standard, which is no longer considered adequate. Instead, we now use TLS. Even TLS version 1.2, which is what Tableau says, okay, that's something we support. Even that is getting, that is sometimes people not happy with it. Now, it is important to note here, TLS version 1.3 is not supported by all components of Tableau Server. That is important to note. But otherwise, you can go up to TLS version 1.2. I do believe that's going to be supported right now. TLS version 1.2 is kind of the industry standard right now. 1.3 is still coming up and being accepted more and more. And by the time it's required, I'm sure it'll be supported in Tableau. So you can easily set this up to what it's saying is I want you to enable all SSL protocols, but disable these version 2, version 3, TLS version 1, 1.1, and version 1.3, which, well, you don't have to, but you can say that. And then you can apply the changes. So this I would definitely recommend. If your server is public facing, is internet facing, you do want to maintain good security protocols, please do this. So firewall, ensure that you have a firewall, and you can how that interacts with your server. Use your run as service account, so update it. If you change your account, then make sure the domain account is a valid account, and can be used to connect to external data sources. Generate fresh secrets and tokens. That is handy to have. So it'll be good to run that as well. TSM security, regenerate internal tokens. Then Tableau does have multiple services. One is the REST API, and one is a GMX service. Now, the REST API, TSM runs on the REST API, but disabling it like this would just disable external access to the REST API. TSM will still function, so that's not a problem. And GMX service, which is, which if you use GMX, you do need that. If you don't, then you can disable it. You can just say enable defaults. But also, Tableau does mention here, Tableau Prep uses the REST API to access your Tableau server. So if you use Tableau Prep, then please do not disable REST API. But if not, you can disable REST API. Although personally, I find the REST API very helpful for different tasks, so it's useful to have. Session lifetime configuration. Now, this is up to you. What your company standard is, what your personal preferences are. You can set this to a different value. You can say, I do not want this lifetime limit as well. As you can see, right now, it does not have a session timeout. Tableau Server does not have an absolute session timeout. So if you do want to set that, you can enable that by setting this true and then give it a value as well. The session lifetime limit, and also the idle limit. The idle limit has defaults. The idle limit is how long it would log out if a user is idle. Cool. This is good to have. HTTP strict transport security, HSTS. So enabling this would just ensure secure transfer of data. So it's good to enable that as well. We'll come to guest. You can enable TLS connection for SMTP, profile, for LDAP as well. And this is actually really handy. Tableau, if you upgrade your server often, it's good to check this out to see what is the changes in the security hardening change list. Like for instance, there was this recommendation to disable triple DES, but after 2019.3, they basically removed that recommendation because it's no longer being used. So things like that. It's just good to see what has changed. In some cases, I have noticed where there were things that I was like, oh yeah, I need to change that back. But yeah, it's not a deal breaker, but it's good to of course check that. Thing I would say I go back to guest access. So in your licensing, if you do have a core-based license, you do have an option for what's called a guest user. If you do have that, just know a guest user can log into your server without giving credentials, without giving a username or a password. As long as they have the URL, they can log into the server. They can see stuff on the server. They see a URL for content on the server. So unless you specifically need this guest account, it's useful to disable the guest account. So this is done from the front end, not from the back end of the site. It's done from the front end of the site. So your Tableau Server admin can go in and do this. So that's handy to have. Or else if you do enable it, then make sure that your permissions model blocks access to the content that guests should not see. So that's something to know. All right.